stands as a beacon of truth. He is Abuki Cabal. You are listening to Abuki Cabal.
Welcome to the Abuki Cabal Show.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the show. Tonight I think we're going to talk about this Puffy thing. And how preventable things like this are. Yet, we don't ever want to talk about that aspect of these type of things. I mean, it was horrible to see Cassie abused like that. I find it hard to believe that she did not know the character of the man that she left her previous working for, and had been warned, by Kim Porter and others around Puffy about Puffy's volatile nature and how he had flagrant disregard for women that he dealt with. Yet we still see women trying to gain his favor, still trying to be in his face. He still has no problems getting attention from women or women trying to get attention from him. And, taking Puffy out of the equation for a minute, this is something that we in the community constantly warn women about basically being gold diggers and going out and trying to get with powerful men and expecting to be treated like they're the prize in that situation when men with that much access and resources will treat you just like they treat a car or anything else. When they're done with it, they'll just go get another one. And, if it's, money is no option, then they will abuse the things that they're in. I mean, they won't treat a Bentley like it's something special. They'll just ride it like it's a fucking Volkswagen, So, we have, you have to take that into consideration. Like I said, I mean, very, very few people, I myself, I never liked Puffy. I never saw any redeeming qualities in Puffy. When he was, doing his reality TV show, making the band and all of that, I saw how badly he treated people and he didn't give a shit. You saw how he looked at people and he meant, what he said with regard to not giving a shit. And people still, tried to gain his favor and still ran around, getting, running, meaningless errands and shit to try to, to gain this man's favor. Now, we constantly talk about Pookies and Ray Rays and shit, but there's some Pookie and Ray Rays who have a lot of money too. And, we warn women about that too. But, when this money is involved, a lot of times they close their eyes to a lot of things, And, I thought about this movie Sparkle, and how, everybody tried to warn sister about Sadden Struthers, Everybody tried to warn her, but she didn't care. She told her mama she was a maid and she wasn't going to be no maid and, cleaning nobody's houses and all of that. And she wasn't going to have no shitty life like her mama, and this basically that brings another thing into mind. How these women are constantly talking about what they deserve, I deserve to have this. I deserve a man who makes $500,000, $600,000, $1 million man, yet they're average women, you know, or they're women who may have some talent, but it's really not any significant talent. We saw this with R. Kelly. We saw this with Puffy. We see this with Jay-Z. We see this with everybody, how these women, go up and they may be attractive, and they think they can sing. They think they have something, that's worth something to these men. Yes, you do. You have some sex. That's what you have that these men will want, you know. And now they're starting to retroactively start to look at, the groupie phenomenon, you know, and starting to make these men pay for it. But, I have a different take on it. It's like, the when hookers are out selling coochie, okay? They always go after the men who are buying, but they never, they have stopped trying to get the coochie off the streets, Now, when it's other crimes like drugs, we're going to focus on taking the drugs off the street. But if you say something, especially as a man, and you say, well, you should, you know, take the same approach. Then you're a misogynist. You hate women. All this nonsense. Women are always given, the opportunity to go out and make mistakes and not have to pay anything for it. It's always, even with regard to this, Cassie has no blame in this whatsoever. You know, you're dealing with a man and who is an ass beater, and it's not her fault. That's all I keep hearing. I keep hearing it's not her fault, and nobody believed her, and all of these things, and okay, you know, I get that, but like I said, I cannot disregard the fact that she knew who she was dealing with. She just thought it was going to be different with her. And women don't want to acknowledge the fact that this could have been prevented. Yeah. You don't have the luxury of exploration without consequences or ridicule, but that's what they want. They want to be able to go out and, do all kinds of things. And when they have bad outcomes, they don't want anybody to explore the fact that you probably shouldn't have put yourself in the situation for that to happen. Women like to say all the time, the signs were there. They always say the signs were there. There was something, that told you that something was wrong in that situation. And to some degree, I believe that. I believe she knew. Like I said, she was warned, And, they always take these self-destructive journeys, How many movies, how many stories, how many women have to tell about their journeys with abusive men, before we say that, we don't try to make excuses for them when they don't leave or when they have bad outcomes, At what point are we going to start holding them responsible for not doing what you're supposed to do? I mean, and I had to ask myself this, who tries to leave an abusive person when nobody's around? Nobody's around. If you're going to leave him, why don't you leave him at the desk? Why didn't you leave him at one of these parties? When you're out in a public space, you can easily turn to somebody and say, hey, I need your help. I need to get out of this situation. Now, for those of us who are in some capacity able to try to advocate for women leaving these situations, you know, we're also told that we're assholes for not understanding that she was probably afraid. She was. They bring up all of these scenarios. She probably was this. She probably was that. This was probably going through her mind. Let's just deal with what was actually happening. Let's not add anything to the equation. You know, we always act like these women don't know the difference between right and wrong. We're always allowing, these women who are out here talking about these stories and whatnot to remove the women's agency from them. She couldn't leave. She didn't know what was going on. It was like all sense of reason and logic just goes out the window. She was just a damn a golem. She was just there, lifeless, husk that was there just there getting beat on. She didn't know what was going on. She couldn't make any decisions. She couldn't do any of that. You know, you always just hear endless excuses for why this type of stuff happens. But at some point we have to emphasize avoiding trauma in the first place. It seems like that word trauma is just being thrown around, endlessly nowadays. They love their trauma, love it, and they love trying to make you acknowledge their trauma and deal with it as if it's some badge of honor. They always talk about girls mature faster than boys and they're smarter and we're more educated and all that, but you don't make educated decisions. You're still making foolish decisions and giving foolish excuses when things like this happen. And this isn't to dismiss Puffy's behavior because Puffy's a piece of shit. He is. He is a piece of shit human being. No one likes a person who beats a woman, especially, somebody who is beating somebody who is not fighting them, who's not showing any kind of violence toward them. I don't see how, he could find himself doing that and then, wanting to lay down with this woman and have sex with her or be romantically involved with this woman after he whooping her ass and doing all kinds of debauchery, you know? But yet this relationship did not end for years, not months, not days, years, you know? We heard stories about her, being involved with situations that were involving Kim Porter. Heard stories about Puffy breaking Kim's nose and whatnot. There's all kinds of rumors circulating around about that. Those are rumors, but I mean, I go by what Puffy showed us every day. Puffy showed us he was a dick every single day. Why did these women think that, that it was going to be different? People who are in the industry know who this dude is. Not very many guys have anything that are in the industry have very much good to say about Puffy. Not to mention all of the, the booty games and whatnot that Puffy's been playing. Everybody knows about that. Yet you still are in a relationship with this dude. You're privy to all of these raggedy parties that that Puffy was putting on. I find it hard to listen to, all of these women and just saying, well, we should have believed her. We should believe all victims and all that. The lead attorney had a great show on that showed just how how ignorant the general public is about the law, about fact finding, about investigations. You know, black folks, especially, should want to get to the bottom of things. But if you know what you hear most of the time when a black man is involved with anything, it's he must have done something. Unless they got it on, on tape or whatever, unless it's dealing with the police, then it's, it may be a little bit different if it's, if it's, and it's usually not, you know, guys who are, who fit the profile of someone who should be respected. It's just a regular street level guy who's out there. He gets, abused by the police, or he gets arrested or whatever. If there's very, very little information that's available, they take the negative approach to a black man. He must have done something. He got to be in there for a reason. They don't just go and just do this and that, and you should hear the shit that these people are saying. And then when Lee came out and said, what about evidence? What about doing an investigation? All we have here is allegations. We have a video of one incident. But because of that one incident, he's going to be raked over the coals and pretty much found in the court of public opinion guilty of everything that everybody says about him. But is that right? Is that right? And does she not play some role in what happens to her? Again, I mean, you cannot remove agency from this young woman, and she had, in my opinion, numerous opportunities to get out of that situation. And it was reported that even after this situation, she got away from him shortly after that, went to her apartment, but then she wanted to come back and apologize to Puffy for leaving him. But the hotel staff stopped her and told her go back to her apartment because they watched the security cam. They saw what happened. They didn't intervene, but they saw what happened. Now, people are going to say, this is the victim mentality. And she ran back to her abuser because it's her mentality. We have to understand the mechanism of the mentality of the victim. No, we should tell the victim what to do to get the fuck out of that situation. That's what we should do. We should not be understanding a goddamn thing. We should tell them that you should get out of that situation. If this was my sister, mother, whoever the case may be, I would say leave. And if they don't leave, what do? Call the police. You don't personally get involved with that because you'll end up being a casualty of their bad decisions. Okay? Sometimes I understand that sometimes people don't leave situations because, of history and all these other types of things. I understand that in lighter forms of abuse, whether it be verbal, other forms of emotional abuse that take place. But again, you tell victims how to get out of those situations. Don't make excuses so they stay in the situations. And what do we see? We see in these Tyler Perry movies. We see in all the girly movies, they all show the long, self-destructive journey that these women take, so that you'll understand, so that you can empathize with this individual and their rationale for staying. No, I'm not concerned with any of that. You should, A, get the fuck out. B, as soon as possible. C, and when there's plenty of people around, because we know what happens when a person is abusing a woman. There was I watched a video here on Facebook where an individual was from, I think he was an Iranian MMA fighter in Russia, and he kicked a young lady in her butt as she walked around. She was the girl, the sign girl. Okay, so he kicked her in her butt, and the referee said, "Man, don't do that." You can see him in the video saying, "Don't do that," and he chastised him for it. Well, once the fight went on, the fight went badly for him. He got the shit whooped out of him because of what he did to that girl. And after the fight was over, he came out on the floor and was walking around, and the rest of the crowd came out of around the octagon and beat the shit out of him. It was a free for all. He was destroyed out there because he kicked that woman. He was also banned, had a lifelong ban from engaging in any of the sports, the sport that was going on during that time. So he probably lost plenty of money. He's banned from that league. And that's one instance. Try seeing something like that happen out in public, where a man, slings around a pretty woman like Cassie, and no matter how much money he has, Puffy would have got drugged all over through the streets for doing that by common people. So that's what we should be, teaching these women about. And I'm really sick of this nuanced theory about what we should be doing with regard to these women. But I want to talk about this movie a little bit and explore this this trope that we see in books, movies, everything. Okay. So we're going to talk about Satin Struthers. Everybody knew Satin wasn't shit, but sister didn't listen. She was warned, and, it was a hot mess. Here's your boy Satin. Satin, played by Tony King, was a dope hustler, a woman beater in Sparkle, the Warner Brothers musical picture background in Harlem in the 1950s. Also, top line in the cast are Philip Michael Thomas, Irene Cara, Lynette McKee, Dawn Smith, Dorian Harewood. The director is Sam Osteen, and the film was produced by Howard Roseman and written for the screen by Joel Schumacher. This music is pure Curtis Mayfield. Okay. So there's Satin. I don't know if you guys have seen this one. This is the better Sparkle movie. If you hadn't, go ahead and watch it. I mean, I used to watch this, it used to come on all the time, Thanksgiving, Christmas, all the black movies, when you were going to be with the family, if you could find this, and everybody watched this. We watched Sparkle, we watched The Mac, we watched all the good movies from that time, black exploitation and whatnot. This was one of those ones, though, that kind of stuck with you, that you kind of learned something from. So there's Satin Struthers. Okay, so in the 1976 version of the film, Satin is first seen betting on a fight between two chickens, but a friend of his introduces him to Levi, and he hires him as one of his bookies. Okay, Levi invites him to a show at the nightclub where his girlfriend's sister, Williams, and her sisters, Dolores and Sparkle, perform. He accepts the invitation, so his date and Levi go to see her, and the sisters performance. Satin introduces himself to sister, and he is immediately attracted to her. Okay, so if you saw all of this play out in the movie, it's really powerful how Satin moves, and how he pretty much seduces her with the fact that he has money. Satin is well dressed, and you can tell He is just not a good guy. Okay. There's a scene where Satin well, sister introduces Satin to her mother. And her mother warns her and tells her he's no good. Come on. She tries to take her away from him, and she snatches back away from her mother. She stays with Satin. Okay? So that's warning number one. Okay? All right. So he invites her to a party in which it angers his date, Mrs. Tate. So he invites her to a party in front of another woman that he's with, which shows you, one, Satin don't give a damn. Okay? Satin is a man of ill repute. He is just not a good character. Okay? So again, the signs are there. Now, we see this play out in real life, and it plays out the exact same way. Women will disregard a lot when there's money involved. Ass beating, cheating, whatever the case may be. And then you have people like us in the community who basically tell them, don't deal with these types of dudes. Get you a regular guy, make you a regular life, build something with this guy, and you can be happy. But that's not good enough for them, because in their mind, the Disney fantasy is very powerful. They believe that they deserve the cream of the crop. They deserve what they see on TV. They deserve what they read about. They deserve the fantasies that have been fed to them about what a man should be and about what their lives should be. But also, when they get these things, when they make achievements, it's on to the next achievement. Nothing is ever good enough, but that's a whole nother aspect of it. So let's move on back to the story here. So, like I said, he invites sister to the party in front of his date, Miss Tate. Okay. He physically assaults her, but Levi doesn't defend her. He escorts her out of the dressing room. The next day, Levi goes to his home, only to find out that he and sister are now a couple. Okay. So he beats the first woman. And Levi, doesn't defend the lady, doesn't do anything. He just lets it happen, which a lot of times that's what people do. People mind their business and stay out of it, because we've been taught since children to stay out of grown folks' business. Stay out of grown folks' business. Do not intervene in that, because sometimes when that's going down, that woman will turn and beat you or cut you or shoot you or whatever the case may be. Okay? All right. So sister's laying up in the bed with Satin, and Levi complains some of the work he hired him to do, as well as the pay that he was supposed to get from Satin, wasn't coming down the way it was supposed to be coming down. So the agreement was broke. So he saw that Satin wasn't a good dude. So Satin basically brushes him off. Okay, on the night of the show, at her dressing room, Sparkle and Dolores notice a bruise on sister's face. Sister just got with Satin after he beat the other woman. Okay? Now he's beating her. Now, sister came from a good home. Her mother was a single mother, but her mother was trying to do right by her and by her children, her 3 daughters, okay? So you have a situation where this lady, wanting to get out of the situation that her She saw her life going in the same direction that her mother was going. She wanted to get out. She wanted to be famous. She wanted to have money because her mom's cleaning toilets. Her mom's a maid. Her mom is very attractive in this movie. She's still an attractive woman, you know. But sister does not respect her mother's lifestyle. Her mother was a church going woman, and we still see this to this day where these young women hate the lives that they imagine that their grandmothers and their mothers had to live, enduring a life with their fathers. Because they always make up these stories about how the men wasn't shit back in the 50s and the 40s and blah blah blah. She must have, she hated living like she was living. She hated cooking like that. She hated raising her children. But then when you ask these older women are saying, y'all are crazy. Y'all are crazy. Y'all have basically messed up the game. An older lady was on the lead attorney show and basically told him that she was a supporter of the Passport Bros because the pool is filthy. She said that these women are so terrible that she would rather these black men go overseas to find a woman that they can be happy with rather than to be here and be belittled and destroyed emotionally and physically for somebody who doesn't respect them and doesn't care nothing about them. So we see the same phenomenon. This movie was an old movie now, but we still seeing the same things happening. The same things happening. What is it that they say? Insanity is, doing the same thing over and over and over and expecting a different result. Well, this is exactly what's going on here. So let's get back to the story here. Okay. So sister is bruised on her face and her shoulder. Okay. In the dressing room that night. She was just as happy and, blowing it off and everything and saying, no, don't worry about it. It's nothing, or covering up the, the bruises and whatnot. Even though the sisters were telling her, sister, what is this? What's going on? And she told them to mind their business. Okay. So goes on, she continues, with her relationship. Okay. They immediately, along with sister's drug use, knew that Satin was up to no good. And after their final performance at that nightclub, their mother warned her about his reputation. But because he is rich and she loved him, she didn't listen to her. And she moved out of her mother's home and into Satin's house. The relationship didn't get any better as she hoped. He continues to physically and verbally abuse her. Okay, so there's a scene in there where she was sitting in there. She was happy with Satin. She was high, laying up next to him, talking about how good, she was just, you could see she was just glowing, just high off of the, the sex that they had had. And Satin looked over at her. Satin's a dark-skinned guy. He looks over at her, and we all know how it was, the colorism and whatnot that black women always talk about, but they don't talk about how dark-skinned black men were treated and how black men were talked about, during this time. Now this was in the 80s where you started to see some of that and where they were talking about it. I think this movie was a little bit older than that, but basically, yeah, it was 1976. So, but some of that did come out in the 80s where people were, the colorism against black, dark-skinned men and whatnot. And, all the women wanted light-skinned dudes, but again, that's another story. So, like I said, there was a scene. She's laying in the bed. She's with him, and he viciously beats her. I mean, gets over her naked body and viciously beats her, and you could just hear, the impact of the blows. And it was very hard to watch, but I think they showed it for a reason. I think they were trying to during that time, there was a effort to try to show people how bad things could turn out, to try to deter them from doing uh, things like getting on drugs, being in abusive relationships and whatnot. So I remember that. I remember that as a kid, watching that as a kid. Okay. So saddened after learning that someone called the police on his pickup, in which Levi was arrested for, he confronts Sticks about it, but Sticks denies it and he fights him off. But the knife goes into his rib, causing Sticks to win the fight. Okay. So, they kind of gloss over this part, but basically Sticks whooped his ass and told him he needed to be, he needed to stick to fighting girls, you know? So, it's a very good movie. This is a real gloss over Satin's villainy. This is a villain's wiki. It's pretty good. I'm gonna have to explore this a little bit more later. But something else, about this is that's important is, when dealing with situations like this, we always have to, you know, return, to the scene of the crime, so to speak. Why is that important? Okay. So we're going to talk about why that's important. Okay. All right. So when you look up why people return to the scene of the crime, why is it significant to return to the scene of crime? You always return to the scene of the crime in like a novel, because that's where you start to find out what happened, what actually happened, and not what people say happened. Okay. So that's why a lot of times people go, well, I need to know what happened. I need some evidence about, what happened. You know what I mean? And people don't, for some reason, women don't, they don't want you to do that. They don't want you to do an investigation. They don't want you to do anything. Okay. And, another thing they don't want you to talk about is, the significance of learning from the mistakes of others, and, trying to, prevent these things from happening. Let's look at what they say about this is, the goal of learning from others isn't to avoid making the same mistakes. You'll probably still make the same mistakes, but when you're not blinded by the symptoms and consequences, you'll identify when you're making mistakes faster, and you can mitigate the gravity of the consequences of continuing down the same path. That's one way of saying it. Okay. There's another way of saying it is basically, people recognize other people's failures and try to understand, how it happened, why it happened, and how not to get into the same situation. Like the saying, that if we fail to learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. That's that is very true. We're starting to see some of the same things now, over and over and over again. It is very, very, very sad to see her going through what she's going through, and other ladies going through what Cassie went through. But at some point, you got to be held, responsible in some way, for what happens. Is it going to have to end the way it did for sister? You know, women saying, that oh, she didn't know any better after the fact, after she's already gone, or or doped up and used up. We see the same situation in this Puffy situation. Everybody using, pink cocaine and, and all these things in the clubs. Cassie was doped up and passed around to people in clubs, and, you know, uh, you know, Cassie being flaunted around in front of Kim and whatnot. And she participated in that and even laughed about it, are some of the reports, you know. It's just, it's hard to hold Puffy accountable and not hold her accountable also for being in a situation with a shitty man, And another thing that this has brought out is that, it seems like black women have made, funeral lying about living folks commonplace. We sit up and we lie about people who, who are living like they're dead. We sit up and we brush away all the bad things about them, all their bad behavior, and we make them seem like they're the best individual possible, because nobody wants to deal with the fact that sometimes we do dumb shit. Sometimes we put ourselves in bad situations because we don't listen to people who know better. And it's becoming more and more commonplace that, women don't want to listen to people, period. Especially not men, you know. But there are a lot of men out here who try to protect women from situations like this, but they don't listen. They don't listen. All you have to do is just go on Facebook, go on Instagram, go on Twitter, and look at how much women are just reveling in the fact that, now Cassie is being proven to have been abused, as if it's just some great thing, some great accomplishment, something that she should have a medal pinned on her for, and not as this is a stupid situation that she should not have been in, because it's hard to overlook all of the parties, all of the smiling, all of the photos with Kim Porter, posing with people. You're sitting up smiling with bruises on your shoulder. You're in these venues. You're taking all of these expensive gifts. You're living this high life. You're getting something out of it, but yet you're also being abused. And now that you're out of it, which you left Puffy for Puffy's personal trainer. So you still making shitty decisions. You still bopping around from dude to dude to dude. It's like jumping from one vulture to the next vulture that's circling over a carcass. You still dealing with vultures. You left a good man to get with an abuser, and now you left that abuser for his personal trainer. You look crazy. You look crazy. And women don't want us to talk about this, but I just gotta talk about it. I mean, this is my take on it, and I'm standing by it. You know, I will take the position that we should be advocating for women to leave these situations, get out of these situations, stop gold digging, stop chasing, money men, and expecting love when you're coming into it like a predator. You're coming into it trying to get something from him. You're moving like a hooker. So when you're treated like a hooker, then, and even hookers shouldn't be treated like this, but I'm just saying, you know what I mean? This is how this man moves. This is how this man has moved ever since the 90s, And he's not the only one. There are a lot of people in the industry that are like this, There are a lot of people in rock that are like this. There are a lot of people that are just in entertainment period that are like this. How many people, I mean, how many people got to tell you that it's like this before you believe it, before you stop doing what you're doing, and before you start to take the dangers of doing this type of thing seriously? You know, that's the question. And I'm going to end it there. You guys tell me what you think. I'm sure I pissed off some people, but hey, comes with the job. And that's what happens when you explore problems that need to be solved, and you go about it in an unorthodox way. Sometimes this is necessary. This is what we're supposed to do as men. We're supposed to think outside the box, and we're supposed to hold people accountable, even ourselves. You know? I mean, I've seen this, in real life, where, I mean, I had a a situation where I knew a young lady who was in a relationship with a guy. She was getting beat down, but she did everything for this guy, you know, and everybody's telling her to get out, but she continued, So at that point, what are you supposed to do? You know, eventually, it ended well for her. Thank God. It's an educated woman too. Educated. She's a teacher, you know. So it can happen to anybody, you know. And like I said, we got to have some concrete rules on how these women, what we need to be telling these women to get out of, how to get out of these situations, and not making excuses, so that they know that if I don't leave, it's okay. So I'll end it there. And I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. And I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say, and gals, in the comments.
You are listening to Abuki Cabal, the analytical savage.
You guys have a good night, day, morning, evening, whenever you listen to the show. And like I said, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening to the show and supporting the show.